Have you ever had one of those flights where the drama's practically in the air before the plane even takes off? That was exactly my situation on a flight from New York to Los Angeles. 4 hours trapped in a flying tube, but I was ready. I'd splurged on a business class ticket, paying extra for peace, legroom, and the chance to work without feeling like I was stuffed into a sardine can. I had no clue, though, that my carefully chosen seat was about to become the battleground for one of the most entitled encounters I've ever witnessed. I got to the gate early, found my boarding group, and quietly scrolled through emails. And that's when she appeared. Karen. You know the type. Loud, impatient, the center of her own universe. She had 2 kids under 10 trailing along, plus a husband who looked like he hadn't slept in a week, arms straining under piles of luggage. From the second she reached the counter, she was already sighing and snapping at the gate agents like the entire flight schedule revolved around her. I didn't need a crystal ball to know this woman was going to be a problem. Boarding started, and I headed down the jet bridge, found my seat in business class, and settled in. That leather seat was glorious, the legroom perfection. I leaned back, ready to relax. Then came the voice, sharp, commanding. "That's our seat. You need to move." I looked up, stunned. Karen stood in front of me like a self-appointed queen of the cabin. Kids in tow, husband is buried under bags. She jabbed her finger toward my seat like she was issuing an order. "Excuse me?" I asked, blinking. She crossed her arms with practiced drama. "We're a family. My children need to sit with me and my husband. You'll have to move to another seat. Now let's pause here." My boarding pass clearly read 2A. Her hands? Empty, no ticket in sight. She just assumed that because I was alone, my seat was somehow up for grabs. But I wasn't giving up my hard-earned comfort because she didn't plan ahead. I kept my voice polite. "I'm sorry. This is my assigned seat. You should check your tickets." Her face flushed crimson. "Are you seriously going to make a mother split from her children? What kind of person does that?" All around us, heads turned. I could feel the cabin's collective attention locking on us like an audience waiting for the next line in a drama. I already knew this was going to be a long flight. The flight attendants were trying to get people seated, but Karen wasn't letting go. She leaned closer, her tone soaked in entitlement. "You don't understand," she insisted, waving her hands dramatically. "My children cannot sit without me. They'll be scared. They'll cry. You're in our seat." I raised my boarding pass so she could see the bold 2A printed on it. "This is my seat. Check your boarding pass." Her husband, looking utterly defeated, mumbled something like, "Honey, let's just go to our seats." But Karen spun on him like a storm. "No, they'll move us. That's how this works." Just then, a flight attendant arrived with that practiced, polite but firm airline smile. "Is there a problem here?" Karen pointed at me like I was a criminal caught red-handed. "Yes, this man is refusing to move so our family can sit together." "He's in our seat." The attendant checked both tickets. "It took maybe 5 seconds. Ma'am, your seats are in row 23. That's economy." You could practically hear the ripple of relief through the cabin. But Karen didn't back down. She gasped like she'd just been slapped. "Row 23? That's the coach. Do you expect my children to sit back there with strangers while I'm up here? Absolutely not. We're a family. Families belong together." The attendant kept her composure. "Business class and economy are separate ticket classes. If you'd like to sit together here, you can purchase an upgrade. Otherwise, you'll need to take your assigned seats." Karen turned back to me, fury blazing in her eyes. "So you're really going to let 2 little kids suffer for 4 hours? You'd rather sit up here alone in your fancy seat than help a family? Shame on you." The murmurs grew. A businessman behind me muttered, "She should have booked properly." A woman across the aisle shook her head. "And me?" I sat there calm, but burning inside. Because here's the truth. I do have compassion. If the airline had politely asked, or if she'd approached me with a shred of respect, I might have considered swapping. But instead she marched in, barking orders, accusing, acting entitled. That was her fatal mistake. I adjusted my seatbelt, leaned back in my chair, and kept my voice even. "Ma'am, I'm not responsible for your seating arrangements," I said. "This is my seat, and I'm not moving." The flight attendant gave me a small, approving nod before turning to Karen. "Ma'am, please proceed to row 23. You're holding up the boarding process." Karen let out a long, theatrical groan, stomped her foot like a toddler denied candy, and stormed down the aisle, dragging her kids behind her. But deep down, I had a feeling this wasn't the last I'd see of her. As soon as she disappeared into the back, I reclined my seat a bit, plugged in my headphones, and told myself the worst was over. But with people like her, it's never that simple. 15 minutes after takeoff, just as we leveled off above the clouds, I noticed movement in the aisle, and there she was again, Karen, marching forward like she owned the entire plane. One child trailed behind, the other clutching a juice box like a lifeline. A flight attendant quickly intercepted her, but Karen was already in full performance mode. "This isn't safe," she declared dramatically, loud enough for half the plane to hear. "My children need to sit with me. They're terrified. Look at them." "What kind of airline separates a family?" The attendant remained calm and professional. "Ma'am, your children are with your husband. They're not alone. They're safely seated in economy, and the crew will be checking on them throughout the flight." Karen scoffed and threw her arms in the air. "My husband can't handle them. He's useless. Do you know how stressful this is for me?" Then she jabbed her finger at me like I was the villain in her personal drama. "And he's the reason for all of this. He stole our seat." Every eye in business class was now fixed on us. I pulled down my headphones with a sigh. She wasn't done dragging me into her circus. "Ma'am," I said evenly, "I didn't steal anything. I paid for the seat. That's the end of it." Her jaw dropped like I'd just insulted her personally. "You're unbelievable. Do you even have children? Do you know what this is like? I hope someday you'll understand how cruel you're being." A man across the aisle let out a chuckle. "Cruel, lady? He just wants the seat he paid for." Karen spun around, glaring daggers at him. "Oh, so now strangers are ganging up on me? Typical. No compassion anywhere." The attendant stepped in again, firmer this time. "Ma'am, please return to your seat. If you continue disturbing the cabin, we will have to escalate this matter." The word escalate finally seemed to pierce through her outrage. She huffed, muttered something about heartless people, and stomped back down the aisle. But that brief moment of quiet didn't last. Every 30 minutes, like clockwork, she made some kind of scene. At one point, she yelled through the curtain, demanding the crew let her kids come to the front. Another time, she accused the attendants of favoritism, insisting they were siding with the rich guy over a struggling mother. Meanwhile, her husband quietly sat with the kids, doing his best to keep them entertained. Honestly, I almost felt bad for the guy. Almost. By the 2-hour mark, she was fuming so hard that even passengers in economy were whispering about the lady who lost the business seat. But the real fireworks started during meal service. Dinner was served halfway through the flight. I won't pretend business class meals are gourmet, but compared to the economy snack trays, it felt like a feast. The attendant offered grilled salmon or roasted chicken. I picked the salmon, unfolded my tray table, and finally began to enjoy the comfort I'd paid for. Then came that voice again. "Why do they get real food while my children are stuck with snack boxes?" The attendant tried to explain from the aisle. "Business class meals are part of the ticket purchase, ma'am." But Karen wasn't listening. She stormed forward again, practically bursting past the curtain, glaring at my plate like I'd personally stolen it from her kids. "This is unfair," she shouted. "Families should come first. You should be giving those meals to my children instead of selfish passengers like him." She pointed straight at me again, her voice echoing through the cabin. That was it. I'd had enough. I set my fork down, turned to face her, and spoke loud and clear so everyone could hear. "Ma'am, you've interrupted this cabin 6 times. You've insulted the crew, and you've tried to take something you didn't pay for. Enough is enough. This is harassment." The flight attendant stepped in immediately, her tone shifting from polite to firm. "Ma'am, return to your seat now. If you refuse, we will file an incident report and notify security upon landing." Karen's face lost a shade of color at the mention of security, but instead of backing down gracefully, she puffed up one last time. "Fine, but don't expect me to stay quiet about this injustice. I'll be filing a complaint against this airline, and against him." She stabbed the air in my direction one final time before storming off, her kids following like ducklings. And just like that, the rest of the flight was blissfully quiet. No more interruptions, no more drama. She sulked in economy while I enjoyed my meal, my movie, and the peace I'd rightfully paid for. When we finally landed in Los Angeles, I grabbed my bag and walked off the plane calmly. Behind me, Karen was still muttering about selfish people and poor treatment. But as I stepped into the terminal, a few passengers offered me sympathetic smiles. One even leaned in and whispered, "Good for you for standing your ground." And you know what? They were right. I hadn't been cruel. I hadn't been heartless. I'd just refused to let someone's entitlement steamroll me. Sometimes, the best thing you can do is stand firm, even if it means enduring a 4-hour flight with a fuming Karen behind you. What do you think? Was I right to hold my ground, or should I have given up my seat? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe for more wild Karen and HOA stories, and ring the bell so you never miss one. Your support keeps these stories coming.